This is the first ever installment of my virtual reality YouTube channel. I am a neuroscientist who goes by the name of the Neuroformer, and this, believe it or not, is Neuroform Studios. I'm on a mission to help share with people best practices in virtual reality. What do I mean by that? Well, basically, lots of people get a virtual reality rig. Quite often they spend a lot of money on it. But I feel like a lot of them bring over bad habits from 2D gaming. They're so used to playing games, console games or PC games on a 2D screen, that they miss out on a lot of fun that can be had using virtual reality systems like the HTC VIVE. I chose the VIVE because there's a few things that HTC can do that others can't, at least back in the day when I invested in it. I'm sure the others have caught up by now. But I am a VIVE baby because that's where I started. And when I say baby, I've only been using it for about 4 months, and of that 4 months, one of the months I had a knee operation, so I couldn't sort of lark around in my studio. So I'm going to take you each week on a little adventure. We're going to go and check out a virtual reality game or other, and then I will return to other games that I'm currently in love with. So essentially, Virtual Vive Sanity is all about showcasing one game. Often it'll be a game I've never tried before, and you come with me, whether you own a VR kit or not, to just see whether or not you'd like to get the game yourself. But then I go back to playing the games which I'm sort of currently a little bit obsessed with, and there is so much great stuff to be had in virtual reality that I've always got some kind of compulsion to get back into one of these virtual reality worlds. I also try and steer you away from games which are basically just doing exactly the kind of stuff you can do in 2 dimensions, on a screen, and towards those that really utilize everything that the 3D act of gaming can enable that isn't possible either in the gaming world or in real life. So that's where I try and place my focus. And as a neuroscientist, someone who's been studying the brain for 20 years now, there are a few little tips and tricks, simple ways you can adjust how you organize your playing area, your playing sort of things that are immediately to hand so that you don't end up with inconveniences. But ultimately, my aim is to get you as deep as possible immersed in that particular virtual reality environment, because it's all about avoiding breaking the magic. It's all about making sure that the wonder that can be generated when you're in a virtual reality situation, where your brain is utterly convinced you're no longer in the real world space, you're actually in VR. You don't want to break that magic, you want to maintain that wonder. So a few simple little tips and tricks that, from my understanding of how the brain processes visual information, auditory information and so forth, it can help you get deeper into every experience. So let us go into so sometimes the border between reality and virtual reality is narrow. And let me give you an example. Ready? Oh no, I forgot. Wait, sorry. How stupid of me. The click never works. What you need to do is show a little bit of respect. You see? So here we are. This is reality. That is virtual reality. And up here, you can see the virtual view has the same position as you. Now, just in case you're interested, in reality, when I record down there, what I can see when I look up at you is you're just up there on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th step. So I can look up at you and I can show you the wonderful vista behind. In fact, that's probably as good a place as any to start. I'll just show you around a few of my favourite spots down here. Oh look, seemed to be a pigeon doing some kind of backspin, which was weird. Right, so firstly, I'm noticing, now that I'm here, that I can't hear anything. Now in these virtual reality worlds, whether you're up in the log cabin, which is the default setting, or you're here, Tower Bridge, with the Tower of London over there in the distance. Sure, I should probably point with something that you can see over there. Is the banks of the north bank of the Thames. Right next to Tower Bridge is the Tower of London. Over there, that sort of bluish looking ship is HMS Belfast. This is Horsley Down. Over there are some very nice boats moored. Over in this way, that is the Royal Navy, has a little jetty there. Over there behind those trees is St. Catherine's Dock. And over there is the ugliest hotel the world has ever seen that completely ruins everything. But I'm not hearing anything, so the problem with that is it's quite easy to forget. Even though you've stuck your earphones in your ears, have you connected it into the socket? So you plug it in, suddenly you'll be able to hear running water, the sound of seagulls. Every now and again you hear a honk, honk, honk from cars going over Tower Bridge. And what I sort of recommend to people, if they ask, is, what's a fun thing to do? Well, there's the first thing to do. Get to know where your walls are in reality so that you don't accidentally stimulate them at a time where you don't plan to, because it kind of breaks the illusion when you're suddenly confronted with this mesh. You realise, no, I'm not on the beach by Tower Bridge, I'm in the real world. So that's sort of my first minor tip. Try and use your space, but try and avoid exploring in a way where you're regularly going to bring up the walls when you really want to be having a look around. So let's look this way. Let's look down the Thames to in a westerly direction. If you were to go on a boat down here, you'd go all the way through central London, you'd hit all the major sites, more or less. But I think it's quite nice when you're transitioning from reality into virtual reality to just come to a place like this and just take it easy, just chill. Just sort of listen to the sound of the water, sound of the birds. Just enjoy the tranquility. I mean, to be fair, this is considerably more relaxing than the real Tower Beach because tourists are constantly flocking over. Now, this only appears at low tide, this particular beach. And as you can see from the sludge all going up the sides there, high tide is up here. So twice a day, every day, the tide goes from considerably lower than this to all the way up there. So if I stand up at high tide, I would be completely submerged in water. So when it does appear at low tide, you always get loads of people out here. You get the mudlarks scavenging. There's an information thing somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. I for information. Right. The iconic bridge crosses the River Thames just east of the Tower of London. Oh, its central bascule sections can be raised. So a bascule is the name of that thing. Very nice. Here we are in the world, for those of you not familiar. Perhaps some of you are from North America, South America, Africa, probably a whole load from Asia. And of course, our friends here in Europe. So, yeah, it's quite nice that you can come to a place like this virtually. That's my first thing that I think is absolutely brilliant about virtual reality, that you can go to places that you can't in real life with great ease. Well, obviously, I can go to this particular place, but I can get there much quicker through the power of virtual reality. Right, so I think just come, chill, enjoy. I think virtual reality offers lots of opportunities to sort of decompress from the usual world around you, to sort of take a step back and not play obsessively with your smartphones, which is what everyone seems to do these days, which really is not good for you. It doesn't improve a person's quality of life to mess around with them that intensively. By all means, use them from time to time, but it really beggars belief. You see, that's what the pigeon thinks of overuse of smartphones. It's not good. So yeah, I thought I'd also draw your attention to the floor here, because the amount of stuff that's washed up on this beach and has done over hundreds and hundreds of years, like this is where, the British Empire, the boats that built the British Empire, basically robbing nations from all over the world, bringing it up up the River Thames to London in order to distribute the wealth, and you know, all the tea and stuff would go up there in Canary Wharf, loads and loads of warehousing. All of these warehouses were spices and tea and wool. Wool was a major commodity being traded around the world. I think we gave them that and got back everything else. So yeah, there's lots of bits of crockery and brick and stone and flint and pipes and all sorts of sort of detritus, many different types of material. And so you can see that they've tried to capture the texture, but it looks a little bit blurry. Over here, I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, here there's more detail because people tend to spend more time around these parts. And these curbstones, like as you've seen, these are actually here. So this isn't built in from scratch as a virtual reality world. This is in fact something called photogrammetry. So they've come down here and they've taken loads and loads of photo from every different vantage point. Photo. And then they can feed that into a computer and it builds this. Like this isn't, an artist hasn't said, hey, let's put a sort of an ancient jetty in here. This is actually a scan effectively through photographs of the real jetty. It's very clever, isn't it? I mean, this thing here that sort of sticks out like the prow of a boat, this is actually there in real life. I'll show it to you on another episode. But anyway, look, I'm aware that you want to see some virtual reality, and this just feels like a beach. It might not feel quite as exciting as you were hoping for. So, although I just said that I'm going to usually each episode will be a brand new game that's really amazing. I haven't really tried it, or maybe I've tried it once or twice, but I'm pretty unfamiliar with it. I want to give you a sense of what it would be like if you got the game and you gave it a go from scratch. And then afterwards I'll go on to games I've been playing a lot, and therefore I'm sort of, you know, above beginner level or sort of maybe even advanced level. But today's different. Today I'm just going to show you two games which I think use all of the unique affordances that virtual reality can offer that two-dimensional gaming, like PC gaming, console gaming, simply couldn't even get close to giving you that kind of experience. So yeah, I also just want to point out, in most worlds in virtual reality, this central analog button, it can either be a joystick, up, down, left, right, or just a big fat button that you can use to teleport around by clicking and releasing. Clicking, and wherever the circle is at the moment of releasing, you teleport there, right? Teleportation is sometimes achieved through the trigger button, but that button in the middle is for usually teleporting or guiding a character forwards, backwards, left and right. The upper button is a menu button, and the lower button is also a menu button. So the upper menu button in most games is where you teleport between different options within a world, within a virtual reality world. And then at the bottom, I think of that as the menu key, which sends you between virtual reality worlds. And if you accidentally trigger it halfway through a gameplay, if you don't know where it is, it can really ruin everything. Whereas if you think, hang on, wait, this is the menu button for going between worlds, then you know to press the bottom one to quickly get out and back on with the gameplay. Same with the top, if it's a menu button within. So because I want to go to another world within the HTC VIVE Home suite of things, I'm going to do the top one. And no, I'm not. Oh yeah, go home. There you go. It still helps me go home. So now this is the sort of default setting. It's a log cabin, as you can see, sort of. I think it was a log cabin. Now I look at it more closely, I can see there's no logs whatsoever. Oh well. So, as well as just chilling and meditating, listen to the birds, listen to the tweeting of the birds, watch them fly by, interact with the butterflies maybe. You can also draw stuff with this brush over here. So if you hit the grip button, and then it gives you the options, and reach out to it, it illuminates, and then you release the grip button, it puts it in your hand. If you've had enough of drawing in 3D space, then you just hit the grip button again, and it drops out of your hand. That I'm not going to labour now, but I do implore you to have a little draw with it on a regular basis, because it's really fun, even if you're a rubbish artist. But we're going to get straight into a game that's part of the Lab suite of games that the wonderful people at HTC VIVE created in order to demonstrate to you the human being perhaps engaging with VR for the first time, or at least not, I think this is a entry level. It's free, it's made by Valve. They create awesome games, and this showcase is like a dozen different types of experiences you can have. And this is the layout of the lab. This loading screen, that's actually the room you'll be in. There's a conveyor belt with boxes going around it. You can interact with those a little bit. There's that pink video game. That's the one we're aiming for. There's these funny little characters who, they're quite cute animated characters. I like everything about this game. I like the animation. I like the variety of different games. I like the little people. They have nice personalities. That game, the yellow one, is a catapult game, a slingshot game. That's funny. It's confusing, but it's funny. That one, okay, I'll show you. This game is the one we're coming to in a moment. Xortex. You can interact with things, see what you can and can't do. Can you pick this up? Yes, that will give you loads of information about what you want to do. Look at the posters on the wall. You may see there's a little robot doggy running around. Where's he gone? Ah! Oh! Did I drop that? Thank you. Come on, doggy. Let's give the dog a bone. With a knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. This old man came. Ready? Okay, you see the wall came up like that? Get to know where the wall is. Because sometimes it illuminates in front of you because you're too close to the one behind you. And then, oh, that was a terrible throw. Here, boy. Yeah. So look, yeah, you can play fetch with the doggy. So this is a fun game. I'm not going to show it to you today because I think that in particular is a game that everyone should really, really investigate themselves without too much expectation. Up here on the table, there's like things to interact with. So that was me accidentally pressing the bottom menu button. Press it again and you'll come back into the world. What's this? Oh, bow and arrow. Pull with the trigger held and then release the trigger. Oh, there's a balloon to hit. Poof. And you brought me back the ball. So how do I pick this up? Huh? Okay, that's confusing. I don't necessarily know how to do everything. How do you drop these? No, that doesn't work. Okay, I don't know how to drop it, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure if I went over to pick up other things, it would allow me to. So, a table of things to play with, an amazingly fun experience. Listen to the voices. There's really good script writing. This is, as you can tell, a bow and arrow game. Oh, look, there's a target in the background. This is great over here. This is Atlas, robot repair. A great experience. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil it. This is, human body in there. You can see the skeleton. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him well. Pick things up. Usually it's trigger to hold and then release the trigger to drop. Over here, this is our solar system, so the big sun in the middle with all the planets going around. This is a virtual reality version of that. Absolutely awesome. I might use that to tell a story about the forthcoming mini ice age. All right, over here, this is the secret shop. Now, this one is amazing magical world. You're inside this sort of shop, and all sorts of things happen, and you go up and investigate the shelves. But I think you have to have quite a powerful graphics card, because I don't know if mine is powerful enough to deal with this, because it seems to be unable to render the scenes when really complicated stuff happens. It seems to sort of choke, and it doesn't glitch, it just kind of shimmers. It's kind of a glitch. It kind of shimmers and gets stuck, and then fast forwards a few frames. So that's not ideal, but I suspect that's because I've got a cheap entry-level graphics PC. Because look, I am not an experienced gamer. Oh, that just reminded me. When you are not holding these things, beware. It's very easy to bump them into things. When you're focusing on using your hands as normal, you forget where. So if you reach out to get a glass of something, you'll crack the controller against the table. Trust me, I've only been using it for 3 months. I already had to replace one controller, and I am exceedingly careful with my kit, because it basically took me years to save up for it. I bought this HTC VIVE kit 4 years ago. it turned up 6 months later because it hadn't even been officially launched. I was that excited that in virtual reality you can really get an amazing experience in your home. I was like, I've got to get this. I've got to be a part of this revolution. But then it took me 2.5 years to save up enough money for my first graphics PC, believe it or not. And I'd never built a PC. I hadn't even done video gaming for like 15, 20 years. I did too much console gaming when I was a teenager, and I just sort of did other things for a very long time. But I thought I have to come back to gaming for this. So my point is, the reason I tell that story is because you know, I saved up a while to get the HTC VIVE stuff, and then I got it, and then I waited 2.5 years until I had enough money to get the next thing. Then it all arrived in pieces, so then it took another couple of months before I summoned the courage to build that thing. And then when I got it all going, like, whoa, it was so worth the effort. But although it seems expensive to a lot of people, it's definitely worth saving up for. You'll get there eventually. Anyway, so because I just went for a not too expensive thing, because also I want to design games and I want to test them on like a normal, not that powerful rig. So I think that's what the majority of people will have. And I want everyone to be able to play the games once I finally figure out how to use Unreal Engine. So this is a game I'd like to emulate because it's really, all of these use unique, all of them use unique capacities that virtual reality has. So these are experiences that you can't have anything vaguely like it, really, in a PC game. By the way, I keep pointing at my ears. It's reminding me to tell you stuff. No, I'll tell you that later. Right. So to get into these games, you stick the goldfish bowl on your head, and then it loads up the next game. That's a bit of a spoiler alert. It took me ages, believe it or not, to figure that out, which is a little bit pathetic. So, Xortex. Xortex. I presume it's pronounced Xortex. So, beautifully rendered tube. You see we've got pipes coming out of here, and we've got hexagons seem to be a really popular theme for building stuff in VR. Now, I feel like I might have... Why am I losing this part of the room? Okay, that's a bit annoying. Right. So you'll notice that you can get between the wall of the real, of the virtual reality world and the wall that you have in the real world. And that's quite good because in this game, that, I don't know what you call it, that mini drone, that is the thing that can be shot at by things that come into this tube. Where you are is invulnerable. You're like an invisible puppet master pulling the strings. Only that thing. So whilst you can come through the wall into behind the wall, if the drone, if you move your hand to guide the drone, bang into the wall, you'll die. And you only get one life in this game. So if you've got through to like level 2 and you're doing really well, and then you stupidly step back and pull your arm back, well, you've only got yourself to blame. Now, the reason I'm emphasizing this is because it's quite hard once the game gets going. It's so hectic to really talk freely, so I'll try and shut up then. But I urge you to kind of, before you start playing each game, just have a look around it, have a little explore, enjoy the art that's got like the huge effort to get the lighting, the reflectance on this right, and the shapes nicely angled and making it look like real rivets, if you like, real screws, real wires. Like, people have to build this stuff from scratch. Although that photogrammetry I showed on the beach was someone just taking an absolute shit ton of photos and then putting them into a computer to work out the dimensions of the VR world, someone's created all of this stuff from scratch. And if you enjoy it, if you like the aesthetics, like if you ever go to an art gallery, for example, and you think, yeah, I like looking at different types of art, you can do that with VR experiences because the artistry really is pretty cool. Right. So I'm going to shut up as much as I'm capable of. You reach out and I think you click the trigger to pick it up. And then once you clicked it, it's now a part of your hand. So before you hit go, have a little practice flying. So it's basically like when you're a kid and you pick up an airplane-shaped toy. Oh, if you go into that, bang, you die. You see that? So I was just sort of telling you, before you get going properly, figure out what you can and can't do. So it's like going, meow, flying it. Later you're going to have to dodge umpteen. I wonder if you can go behind. Oh, wow, you can go. Oh, no, you can't. Umpteen bullets. So now's the time to experiment with just the feeling of moving it. So if you want to, you can go up high, as long as you don't go into that. Oh, you can go into that. So maybe you can, when the bullets come flying, you can jump over that. If you go into that wall, go down, dive, 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 dive. So this is the kind of thing you're going to have to do. Navigate in 3D space, and then when a zillion different spaceships are trying to shoot you, that you might have a hope in hell. So I like to encourage people to extend their arm, because I find it helps. So aim at enemies to shoot. Now they start shooting. Oh gosh, there's one appeared behind me. Beware. So each different sort of spaceship, that one's kind of like a mine that drifts towards you, and if you go into it, those little ones die. Mine. Oh, that's a power-up. So sometimes it feels too dangerous to go in towards the power-up because there's too many bullets around. But really, it helps you out a lot if you've got the power. So prioritize the power-ups. Oh, danger, danger. And also you get great haptic feedback. Oh, look at that, flamethrower. So this is the mothership. He sprays bullets out you in all directions. Look at that, like a virus emitting viral particles in all directions to infect other cells. Yeah. Yeah. So I like that you have to sort of drive around in 3D space, weave around, and if you come back into one of these, boom, you would die if you hit a bullet behind you, so beware of that. Ooh, Darth Maul. I call those Darth Maul swords. Power up. So the Darth Maul swords are like lasers. You can walk, your legs don't get chopped off if you walk through it, but if your ship touches it, see you later. Oh, that went right through my heart, as if to prove a point. Okay, so sometimes if it gets a bit hectic, you need to just take evasive maneuvers. Woo! Oh, what's that? A twin laser. Nicely. Oh, yeah, and I also try and prioritize these guys because they can end up making you feel really boxed in. Sometimes it's easier said than done when you're being attacked on all sides. So one life, by the way. It's about this time I start praying for someone to take these people away from me. When the big boss comes out, they disappear. Whew. But do you see how much I'm moving around in 3D space? You can't do this in 2D gaming, right? Okay, go away now. I've had enough of this intense... Oh, God, you can have a breather. Strangely, the boss is like a great relief, because there's only one boss, and it's quite hard when you're dealing with multiple, like maybe 30, 40 different things that are trying to kill you in lots of different ways. Like, it's really taxing on your brain. Right, wave 2. Surely that's the end of wave 2. Right. Ooh. So whirligigs, I call these, I think. The whirligig one. The mine layers. Don't like those guys or girls. They are gender neutral. If you kill them, then all of the mines that were laid disappear. So it's actually worth trying to deal with them. These guys take forever to kill, so I tend to just let them spray spirals of bullets at me because they take so long to kill off. Oh, power up. Oh my God! Reaching for the power up, I almost went straight through him. Oh my gosh, where did you four come from? Yeah, I really feel like I have to use all of my wits, keep all of my wits about me. You've got to be really efficient in working out what are your priorities. Woo, cripes! Ooh, I think sometimes they spontaneously die off in order to give you a power-up. Oh, are you going to come back out again? Make these guys go away. Yeah, go away, go away. Too many bullets, too many bullets, too many bullets. Self-destruct. You're going to erupt in all directions, aren't you? Horrible man. Yeah, you can hold the trigger, by the way. I stupidly, for the first few times I played this game, I kept pulling the trigger over and over again. It really made my fingers sore. It was utterly pointless. What's going on? What's going on? Oh, hang on. You don't even have to pull the trigger. Ha! Go back to your hole. Hang on. Do I have to take everyone on again? Oh, no. Okay, now you... No, now you still don't have to hold it. Uh-oh. Look how long these guys take to kill. Woo! This seems... I don't like feeling penned in. Woo! Woo! Is that a power? Oh, can I get it? Abort, abort! Oh my gosh. Why? How am I even still alive? Am I still alive? Whew. Okay, everyone go away now. Everyone go away. Too many lasers! No! What are these? Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever got this far before. What are these? No! Too many angles. Oh my gosh. What? So a brand new weapon and now you're doubling up with the new weapon and the old weapon. Like, how in 2D gaming would you enable someone to weave in 3D? Like, every single one of these bullets and lasers is there in 3D with you. Oh my gosh. Ah, it's got lasers pointing out. It's the Darth Maul virus monster. Come on. It's so intense. Oh, too many lasers. What? Ah! What happened? What happened? Did I do it? It's the first time for everything. Okay, I can't think of a better time to share with you my top 5 tips. Hang on. I'm trying to practice what I preach here. Taking these off because I'm going to start throwing things around. Now, top 5 tips. As a neuroscientist, I've stumbled upon a few things that help you to keep the magic up as high as possible, the magic of VR. There are little things like glitches can break the illusion that you're really in that 3D world. You can sometimes, so glitches as in the screen doesn't update quickly enough. It could be when you look to see something in the outside world, you engage with the outside world for too long, and then when you go back into VR world, you're like, oh, right, yeah, of course. The outside world is still there. You forget that sometimes you can get so absorbed in virtual reality, you forget the outside world's there. I think that's a good thing for short periods of time. So there are 5 tips that I give which help you to, A, avoid the common mistakes that people who come from a background of non-virtual reality gaming tend to make when they're playing the games. And I just want to make sure everyone's experience is as awesome as humanly possible. So number one, tip number one, I might as well take this off. Tip number one is always have a glass of water to hand, because VR, when done properly, is thirsty work. As any Brit will tell you, a cup of tea enhances any and all experiences. Now, sometimes when you come up for air between levels or between games, you're just dehydrated. You want water. Tea, of course, has a stimulant in it, you know, a little bit of get up and go. It doesn't have to be caffeinated tea even. It could be green tea, peppermint, raspberry and blackcurrant, whatever the hell you like. Because those intense flavors also stimulate a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, which sends tendrils into every part of your brain, just making you feel more alert or more highly aroused in the lingo of science. And so that's obviously a good thing. If you're sort of feeling drained, you've been paying attention to all those bullets, you've been moving around in space, and you know, sometimes you can need a little pick-me-up. So it's kind of, tea is good for a sort of peps you up, ready for the next installment of virtual reality. Number three, you'll notice that my arms are bare. You may have noticed there's a fan over here shooting air across the center of my gameplay area. The idea of that is to increase the efficiency of heat loss. The reason being, the massive thing you want to avoid if you're in a virtual reality world is getting too much sweat on your forehead, because it leaks down here into the orbits of your eyes, and because it's all plugged in with essentially a blindfold with two little screens behind the lenses, inside, when the water gets inside that volume of space, it turns into steam. It fogs up your lenses, ruins everything. So, point three is get as much of your skin, of your limbs on show as possible to allow effective release of heat. And also, if you have some wind shooting through, that also increases the efficiency of heat loss, so you don't need to sweat so much. But really, you're trying to sweat from these parts of your body rather than letting it accumulate in your forehead, because there's only one place it's going to go. Number four, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but virtual reality works because you've got images being shown to you at 90 frames per second, and when your head looks this way, your brain's expectations for what it's going to see, when it's updated with the information that you've just shifted your head this way and up a little bit and moved your eyes to look up to the sky, there are expectations that your brain has about what images, what sights you're going to see, and if those expectations are matched, it can make you feel really immersed, right? The same goes, though, for sound. So that's why sound is not an optional extra in virtual reality. It is absolutely critical to the experience, because the sound is 360. And so you get information, spatial information, about where things are happening in space, which you often need in virtual reality experiences to play the game properly. But the real essence of number four is this multi-sensory brain, the way the visual parts of the brain and the auditory, the sound processing parts of the brain share information, merge information in consciousness, and make you feel really immersed in whatever world you're in, whether it's the real world or otherwise. It's all enhanced and boosted by your physical movement in space. And this is the thing that people get so wrong. They tend to be quite static and rely on a teleportation button the whole time, whereas I think I would like to, it's worked for me, and I think it would work for you. If you teleport to the edge of the area you want to explore, and then actually take a few steps around it, ideally without bringing up the guard walls in the background if you've got enough space, then you just have a much better experience of really being there. So, you know, you approach a table, if you kind of look what's underneath the table, you come to a wall, you tiptoe and look over it. It enhances the degree to which you're sending your visual cortex and auditory cortex information that it can use to expect what's going to happen next, and then when it happens or not, that really boosts your experience of that visual auditory world. So, you know, your sense of really being there is enhanced through movement. So number five, this is all about the fact that virtual reality is absolutely brilliant. It's so Moorish that I am completely convinced that virtual insanity will eventually prevail, because it's so good, it's going to be addictive. There's lots of behavioral addictions. People are addicted to shopping. People are addicted to, playing card games. People are addicted to, the internet and pornography and stuff like that. So smartphone use is addictive. People use it compulsively, regardless of whether it gives them pleasure or not. And this is is to be avoided. So number 5 is all about setting yourself some kind of time limit. Because if you play in virtual reality, you'll encounter so many wonderful worlds. The honest truth is, you will just stay in there forever. Not forever, but you'll overstay. And my fear is, if people are playing 2-3 hours every day, then their brain, over a course of weeks and months, is going to adapt to the demands of that virtual reality environment, or the worlds that you are spending lots of time in. And some of those adaptations will be good. There'll be some positive impacts on your interactions in the outside world, but some of them will be bad. And I'm really worried that people are going to, particularly if you live in a pretty boring place, or maybe it's a dangerous place, and outside it's not that safe outside. Sometimes, staying inside and doing VR could be so much better than real life in many people's circumstances. And so my concern is that you'll end up not making as much effort with the outside world. Now, I have a party to go to later, and so I'm going to set myself a limit of 1 hour gameplay. Now, I've already probably been talking to you for about half an hour, so I'm going to put it down to half an hour. Now, this is going to jolt me out of it, because when this alarm goes off, the audio of my voice, which is just simply recorded. Oh, I'm glad I looked, because it's fallen out. Why has that happened? This is just. So we've got the countdown going. This is. I wasn't going to show you this on this particular occasion, but seeing as I've had a malfunction, I might as well. All it is an Apple iPhone headphones, right? And there's a little speaker on it. So I thought, should I get a proper professional microphone? I thought, well, let me just see if this works first. It's just a safety pin, and this pinned so that it doesn't rub, pinned so that it sort of sticks up in through here. I trap the microphone part of it on the outside, put the safety pin back through again. But here's the critical bit that's easily forgotten, and if you don't do this, the whole thing slips out. You then trap the 2 wires falling on the inside of your t-shirt also need to be trapped. So it's trapped on the front and it's trapped on the back so that it holds it in place. And you see how it just naturally sits away from my clothing? Less rub, less bother to your ear holes. So there you go. Those are my top 5 tips. I'm now going to go into a game called Beat Saber. The reason I'm going to go into Beat Saber is it's the game I go back to the most. It is a thing of beauty. It is a fantastic example of what virtual reality can do that is simply not possible anywhere else on the planet apart from inside one of these. So I'm going to start off in a simple level, and then I'm going to move on to a tougher level, and I'm going to sort of, assume that if you're still watching, you've either never played it before or you're wondering what I'm going to do when I get there. So, lower button switches on the power of each controller. And then once they're on, the lower button opens up the menu to go between different virtual reality worlds. So I just by default go to Home, VR Home. That'll take me back to what I call the log cabin. And here you get your recent apps wall. You can interact with these objects too, have a play. But we're going to go to Beat Saber. So I find a grip. With this one, there's no teleport button, as in the previous one. There's no. All you have to do is wave these things around. They become lightsabers. You get a red lightsaber and a blue lightsaber. The idea is blocks come towards you, and with the correct timing, you have to swipe through it as it comes through. But you also keep an eye peeled for, there's a little triangular shaped thing, which will either be pointing left, right, up, or down, or sometimes on some of the levels diagonally. And that's telling you the angle that you need to cut the approaching block at once it arrives at you. So great. Because it's very easy for beginners like me to accidentally hit buttons when you're wildly thrashing your lightsabers around, I found a grip that you might find useful. The grip that you might find useful is just holding it through the circle and sort of doing like doing one of those. if you hold it through the circle, although you need to pull the trigger to select once the game gets going, you're just waving your hands around. And I find that this is the way that you can avoid accidentally hitting the menu buttons. Right, so let's go to solo. I've never done party. I'm sure it's awesome. I've never done either of these things, but I'm going to go for standard. So you can pick a tune. This is $100 bills. There's Escape, Legend, Country Rounds, Commercial Pumping, Breezer. So don't worry if this isn't your style of music. There are various different types of music available. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter if the tune's not your cup of tea. Trust me, moving your arms and your whole body to the beat of these tunes, that's the fun bit. It's the fact that you're matching your movements to the beats that's the fun bit. The actual song, you're not really listening to a song apart from knowing when to move, because the beat helps you know when the various blocks are going to come past you. Anyway, look, too much preamble. I'm just going to get stuck in now. We're going to start with easy, and then after we've done easy, just to show you sort of one level, I'll then go into expert on another one, and then you can see sort of where you'll be starting out, and then also where you can get to. And what I emphasize here is it's very easy just to hit the bricks in the appropriate places in the appropriate ways with minimal movement of your whole body. Trust me, the more you move your whole body, the more fun it is. It really is a great it's a great workout. And actually, it's such a good workout, I'm going to put the fan up to max. You'll notice, by the way, that the fan is just going in a straight line. It's not swinging. That's for a reason I'll explain in a future ep. Right. Enough chat. Commercial pumping on easy. Whatever commercial pumping is. Woo! So, you see, if I do it sideways, that's wrong, because it's telling me to go down. Downward arrow, upward arrow, downward both, downward both. You get the picture. Ooh, I quite like this tune. Mind the wall! Mind the wall! Whoa! Oops. Oh, sneaky. The colour block was on the opposite side to that coloured Saber, and I didn't think to cross over. Bum, bum, bum. See, like you could just go with minimal movement, like some kind of automaton. But look, it's counting how many combos I've done. It's giving me a score multiplier. It doesn't matter. Ignore the scores. Ignore the high score table. It's not what this game's about. It's about expressing yourself, taking the opportunity to dance like no one's looking. Because usually, when you're in VR, no one is looking. So you can do what the hell you want. Unlike real life, where there are expectations, aren't there, that you behave in a certain way. Quite frankly, that bores me. Oh yeah, you can, when you touch them together, you get like haptic feedback. It goes zzz, 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 zzz. Right, that's easy peasy. What's Breezer? Oh, that sounds pretty hardcore. Do you like that? Do you like pretty hardcore? Maybe Beat Saber, given that the game's called Beat Saber. All right, let's see what I've got. I've only ever got a B on expert, but maybe with your help, oh yeah, we can do the untwisty dance. Did you see the kink in here? Oh, now it's gone. And now I'm incredibly dizzy, which isn't going to help. Right, no more talking, because it's impossible to do well in this whilst talking. I've tried many times. That's as much talking as I can muster. Excuse me. Oh. What did I get? 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 A B. Always a B. Look, 125,170. Look at these people. Look at them. 100,000 more. Like, what are they doing? Quick. What are you doing? Sky Kiwi TV, Silver Haze? What are you doing? I only missed 6 good cuts. Are you doing somersaults? Are you doing the splits? Crickle grass. Mr. Somebody is. Right. It's just so good. I'm just going to do one more. Balearic pumping. Oh, I've got an A on that. There's no need. B on... Okay, for the rockers. Do you like heavy metal? I did go through a Megadeth period. So let's see. Oh, that's not Megadeth. That's more soft rock. Bap, 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 bap. Let's go. If you forget, ha. It's quite hard to remember when they switch and then they switch back again. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. But to help you remember, sometimes it helps to put them out in front of you. Because it's the switching and then unswitching which gets my head tangled. I can handle one switch because you see them switch in the background. But if it switches and then switches back and then switches and switches back, I just lose track. Which I guess is the whole point, right? I'd love to see a drummer do this, or like a contemporary dancer, a Kronkmeister. Well, actually, I've got a friend who's a pretty awesome choreographer. I should get him to come round. Although Ivan's pretty busy usually. I always like to end with a kind of Toro. All right, look, and I'll show you how insane it can get. Because I only missed 11 cuts and I got a B. I know I was saying don't get hung up on the score, but it is remarkable just to compare your score. 159, I felt I did fairly well. Look at this, everyone's got 100,000 more than me. Quick, what are you doing? Sky Kiwi TV again? Like, are they doing anything other than Beat Saber in their spare time? I don't know. This is what I'm talking about. This belies huge levels of addiction, I believe. Right, okay, one more. I know I shouldn't, but, okay, I haven't done this one since I got an A on it. Woo! Actually, hang on, are we going to run out of video? I think it's like 11 minutes long or something. All right. No talking. Oh yeah, the song actually sends tingles down my spine in places. Can't you see? Or something like that. I literally haven't done this for months. That's the adrenaline's coming now. That's a buzz. That's endorphins. That's dopamine, the whole lot. Ah, that's exhilarating. Woo! Like that is going to be a battle against obesity, right? How could you stay obese if you played this level a lot? You can't. VR is going to save the world from the obesity pandemic. Everyone's going to be a super fit specimen because this is a good thing to get semi-addicted to. Virtue bundling, people. Look it up. Virtue bundling. There's a really good Freakonomics radio podcast on it. It's like, basically, you kind of just want to switch your head off. That's why I'm babbling at you. So it just distracts me. Oh. You see what I'm saying about the sweat? This is going to happen to you. And you're going to love it. It's ecstatic in there. It's ecstatic. It's absolutely mesmerizing. You know, when you're a beginner, the staging of the levels from beginner through intermediate to advanced and into expert keep you occupied for hours and hours and hours. And even when you think you're good, there's other people who double your score out there. I'm sure they are watchable on YouTube. I personally can't be asked because I'm too busy doing my own, to be honest. So that basically is more or less it. I'm just going to sort of do a little digest of some of my favourite things about those two particular experiences. Yeah, I was hitting the bottom menu button, which is the wrong one. I want the upper menu button. I want to go back here. So there you go, folks, Xortex. It is utterly free. The lovely people at VIVE created the lab so that you can enjoy about a dozen different experiences, just so you can get a taste for what being able to move around in a 3D environment as you game can do. And what I love about Xortex in particular is that there's no teleportation. And teleportation is a real bind because you can't do that in real life. Like, you don't get that. If you flew from the place you are in to the place, to the spot that you want to teleport to, if you flew between A and B, I think it would be brilliant. But because you just magically appear there, it kind of breaks the illusion that you're actually in there and able to explore the physical space. And so for that reason, I think teleportation is to be avoided because people just have a tendency, like my brother, he just teleports everywhere and is very static in the center of the room, but he's a 2D gamer. He's been playing console games with his friends seamlessly for the last 20 years. I took 15 years out. I played a lot as a teenager, and then through much of my 20s and 30s, I turned my back on it. I only came back to gaming because virtual reality blew my mind. So what I love is that, you know, your body is not actually in danger in the game. It's just the spaceship that you're controlling with your hand. And I love the fact that as the bullets accumulate in the room, you actually have to move around the tube, keeping the spaceship at arm's reach, because the problem is sometimes you'll move back. If your hand's here and you move back, sometimes you'll explode and you can't work out why. Well, it's because there was a bullet hovering in space where your body is. Your body doesn't get damaged by it, but the spaceship, when pulled back into that bullet, explodes. And I spent a lot of time in early experiments with that wonderful game, getting through level 1, level 2, and then exploding for no reason. Another thing I love about it is that it throws so many different types of bullet at you. So sometimes it's a scatter gun, sometimes it emits in all directions simultaneously and you have to find a hole through it. Sometimes it's a laser beam, sort of like a saber, a lightsaber, which is sort of, you know, making certain lines through space no-go areas. And that mixture of having to navigate this crisscrossing lines, the bullets spraying out in all directions or in streams, the mine layers, having to, sometimes you have to go over it, sometimes you have to go under it. And that for me is the beauty of VR. When a game encourages you to use 3D space to the best of your ability, it is just a beautiful thing. And then of course Beat Saber, an absolute classic. That is again a game which you cannot do in 2 dimensions. You cannot do in real life. You can imagine going to a sports hall where someone's set up a load of holograms coming towards you, but it's going to be really expensive, it's going to take time to set it up, there's going to be a long queue to get on it. The fact that you can play a game where the musical beat guides the movement and you need to follow the beat in order to be able to almost instinctively do the right kind of swipe, the right direction swipe with the right hand in the right part of space in order to get enough hits to get a decent grade. Now, I advise you to not get hung up on the sort of score that you get, whether you get high score or low score or in between, what grade you get, forget about it. Just enjoy the fact that it's essentially a form of mindfulness. Now, I know people bang on a lot about mindfulness, but basically it's about, a lot of people spend a lot of time worrying about things that happened in the past. They're very anxious about things that are coming up in the future. The future is uncertain by definition. And they spend all their time in their head, either fretting over the past or being concerned for things that may or may not happen in the future. They spend very little time in the present. Now, it was my best mate's mum practiced Tai Chi. And she was the one who put me onto this idea that if your attention is so absorbed in what you're doing with your body, I don't know how to do Tai Chi, but putting your weight in exactly the right part of space and moving your body, going through the long sequence of movements, there's nowhere else for your mind to be than in the present. And she was a very hard-working lady, very successful businesswoman. And she said, and she's the kind of person who'd work really late at night and then work through the weekend because she's a very diligent, hard worker. And she said the thing that kept her going was Tai Chi because it gave her a break from worrying and fretting over her job, which was very high-pressured, and there was always problems that she needed to sort out. Now, I think Beat Saber is a beautiful kind of musical realization of how you can play a game that involves moving the body. Moving the body to the beat is intrinsically rewarding. There's a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, which picks up the beat, and sort of, that's why you end up tapping your finger or tapping your foot or nodding your head without even realizing you're moving. There's a part of the brain that steers your movements, that actually produces the motivation to move, and that is the brain area which follows the beat and then steers your movement to be in time with the beats. So I just think Beat Saber, the inventors of that did a wonderful job because they created wicked tunes. The act of matching your movements to the beat is an intrinsically rewarding thing. And basically, between those 2 games, Xortex and Beat Saber, they've absolutely smashed it. So look, that was episode 1. I hope you enjoyed it. There's lots more to come. I'm going to be experimenting with lots of different games, and I'm going to be showing you some of my favorites that I've discovered over the last 3 months. So, my beloved fans of virtual reality, whether you have a kit or not, stay tuned, like, subscribe, all those other things. I'm new to YouTube. You know what to do. You're all experts. So thank you very much for joining me in Neuroform Studios. I am the Neuroformer. Much love. Live reality. Live reality.